Hey guys, welcome back to my series on small space whoop racing tips. Today I have episode number 2 for you, which is all about dives. And a dive is actually a common feature in outdoor drone racing that's really only recently, over the past few years, made it into the whoop racing scene as pilots have been transitioning from angle mode to acro mode. So these dives are something that's a relatively dynamic skill that hasn't been seen in whoop racing before, and the way I recommend you practice them at home is with a cube gate. Now these cube gates are made of fabric and they're super simple and honestly some of the most versatile and useful features to have in your home practice arsenal, simply because they fold up into nothing. They can go in a closet and completely disappear when you're not practicing, but they come out really quickly, just pop out, and you can set them up. They're completely freestanding, so you don't need to worry about how you're going to prop them up against a chair or something like that, so that you can use them. And most of all, they're fabric, so when you smack into them at full speed because you're grinding and you're trying to get faster, it's probably not going to break your whoop because it has a little bit of give to it, and of course it's not going to be a hard impact. Now, I have both the Tiny Whoop Cube Gate V1s and the Tiny Whoop Cube Gate V2s in both blue and red, and I really recommend these gates. However, this isn't any form of product promotion for Tiny Whoop. I just bought these gates and they are awesome. There's also a few other brands that make similar gates to these, so it's honestly whatever vendor you want to support, whatever gate fits your needs, your space, your budget, all that stuff. But I really like these gates, and the one thing that I think is really cool about the Tiny Whoop Cube Gate V2 is that they actually made it so you can unzip each individual panel and use it as a separate gate if you'd like, so that's even more versatile for racing around the house. Also, they added this gray, shiny, reflective lining around the outside and the inside of the gate, so when you have LEDs on your quad, you can actually fly through the gate and it will light up with the lights on your quad. I was actually able to fly into a pitch black room, see the gate, dive into it, and fly through it really easily, and it was awesome because it gave me the same experience of flying through an LED gate without all the hassle that comes with setting up a lighted course. So without further ado, there's not too much to say here. I'm gonna go ahead and get the room set up here, and I'll walk you through how we're gonna fly these features. And we're gonna do a similar training technique to the last episode with the ladders, where you can kind of tick-tock and practice your rights and your lefts and any other skills you're trying to work on with the cube gate. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump right into it.
Okay, so we're going to do 2 batteries just like the last pack. The first one, I'm just going to introduce you to how I have the room set up and show you some different flows that you can do to practice your dives and other moves using the Tiny Whoop Cube Gate. And the next pack is going to be more technical. I'm going to give you guys some tips and tricks that I've learned when getting better, faster, and more consistent at my dives. But I do want to remind you, I'm just one person. I'm not the fastest racer in the world, so I definitely recommend getting some advice from other pilots, whether that be locally in your area or online, and ultimately just putting in stick time and finding out what works best for the way that you fly, because everyone's a little bit different. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so I've got 2 obstacles set up here. We got the ladder and we got the cube. I recommend putting the cube about 2 feet away from the wall so you can fly around it comfortably on the outside here. And then of course we have our ladder, and this can be a pylon if you don't have a ladder, or a normal gate, but this is basically just, again, redirecting your flow just like in the last video. So we're going to fly around this, and then we can do a dive into the cube right there, into the top, right dive, around to the left, left dive, around to the right dive, left dive, and so on to the right. So these dives are direction change dives, basically where you're going to go out and you're going to dive, and then you're going to immediately change direction at the bottom of the dive. So I'm changing back to the right there, diving into the right, changing to the left, diving to the left, changing to the right. So that's one way of doing it. Another way you can do it is you can extend that motion around and extend the flow. So to the left it would look like this, where you go around the back, and I do a split S over the top of the ladder there, extend that flow. To the right, extend that flow, and you can keep doing this over and over again. If you don't do that split S to the right, same thing to the left. If you want, you can just do to the left, had a little bobble there, to the left, and then you can also throw in a ladder down if you want to as well to continue that flow. Here's what it looks like to the right. Right ladder down. And so those are two different types of dives. One that kind of continues the motion after you go through, and then one where you do a change of direction and go back the other way. There's also a third type of dive, which is like where you do a full 360 and you come out the end there and continue that flow. We'll do one to the right now. Like that. Back to the left. Come out the end here. Continue the flow. These are all different types of moves that you will want to practice, and it will help you prepare for race day. The last thing I want to cover is the ascender, which is basically where you go through the front panel, come up, and then go back the way you came. So let's do an ascender to the right here. Back the way you came. Back the way you came. I like to throw a ladder down in with my ascender practice. It just helps you practice your pre-turning a little bit and adding that throttle and coming up through. And so those are just a few different moves that you can use when you're looking to use the cube gate, but of course you can fly through if you want to like practice some flows like this as well. But when looking at dives especially, I always just practice different types, different entries and exits, and that really benefits me. Okay, so when it comes to the dive gate, it's easily one of the most intimidating features on the course for beginners, and they tend to just fly around the backside and then use their throttle and kind of drop through it, just like I did right there. We'll do it one more time over here. And one thing that I think that makes it a lot easier is if you use a little bit more roll and you kind of dunk yourself into it. So even if it's not a bunch, even if you're not fully inverted, if you use that roll and kind of dunk yourself into it, that's literally just a spike of my roll stick. It makes it feel a lot easier. Let's do the same thing on the right here and I'll show you. And you can kind of just practice it as like a descending turn. So I'm kind of turning into it and I'm descending, cutting the throttle a little bit. But that roll allows me to see the inside of the gate and that hole that I need to fly through a little bit sooner. And it allows me to kind of line it up, and I'm able to use the flow to kind of guide me through the gate. Now I think as you get faster, it does come to your advantage, especially when you're changing direction in the gate, to get fully inverted and to kind of float into the gate and catch yourself at the bottom like I just did right there. So consider those tips. You want to be careful with the use of your throttle. In a flowy move like that, you kind of want your throttle to be constant, like that. But if you're changing direction, sometimes I like to just spike my throttle a little bit, get fully upside down, and catch myself through the gate just like so. But ultimately, as with everything, it's going to come down to stick time. And it's important to remember that everybody's just a little bit different. Everybody holds their transmitter differently. They have different rates. And so ultimately you're going to have to find what works best for you. But above all else, getting through the dive gate consistently should be your top priority. And then you can focus on doing it fast and adding that speed.
Okay, so that about wraps it up for this video. I hope you guys learned a thing or two about how I approach the dive gate in a practice situation when you have a small space to work with. If you take one thing away from this episode, I really hope that you learn to do your dives consistently before you focus on getting faster, because ultimately the most consistent pilot will win the race. It's not going to come down to that 0.1 second faster on the dive in most cases. If you can hit it more times successfully than your pilots that are at similar skill levels to you, you will come out on top. And that's what I would practice, is just being comfortable, because all that stuff goes out the window when you have those nerves and the jitters and the pressures of racing. So you want to have that muscle memory locked in. If you guys have any more video ideas for this series, please go ahead and let me know. Do all that YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, comment, share, and I will catch you guys in the next one. See ya.